Welcome back, everybody. We're now going to work on the Module 5 assignment, which is called an agency manager. Um, Here's the requirements. The first thing I'm going to say before we begin building this is that this is really super similar to lab number 4 that we just completed. So if you use that as kind of a model, it'll get you like 90% of the way here, right? There's just little tweaks you have to make. So the first thing we have to do is create a dictionary of job titles and descriptions. And what we're suggesting is instead of giving you the descriptions like we did before, you might want to decide what an account manager is, a project manager is, a senior developer, and a junior developer. In fact, the reason we have senior developer and junior developer listed here is because it's probably not a bad thing for you guys to research and put in there. Um, so just putting it out there, right? So we'll create a dictionary of those. Then we'll create a class structure that'll have the following data properties. It'll have first name, last name, username, email, and job title. We'll have an init method, so a constructor function, a string function, which will output everything back to the screen, and then another function that will get the job description pulled out. We're going to pre-populate a list with 3 employee objects, right? Kind of like we did with the stakeholders in lab number 4. Then we're going to create a menu with the following options. That's kind of a lot of repeat as well. And then we're going to validate the following things. First and last name to be letters only. We just did that, right? We're going to use our helper function for that. A username that has to be 6 lowercase letters and 4 numbers, right? That should be really similar to the regex example from 2 labs ago. And then a valid email address. Once again, we've already done this. So you see how there's a lot of repeat here. Now, what I'd like to do, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did last time, is I'm going to move you guys into breakout rooms. All right, so I'm just saying it right now. It is going to be random. I'm going to let you get started on it. You guys can get as far as you can, and then I'm going to bring you back. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time in those breakout rooms. I think like 15 minutes is about all we can afford. And then I'll come back and give you the solution. All right, so I'm going to set up those breakout rooms. So we're going to pause the video here. All right, so while everybody's in the breakout rooms now, I'm going to go ahead and code up the solution here. So I've already preemptively created a module 5 assignment. That's where I'm going to put the file. I'm going to copy my helper file. So I'm going to just right click that and copy, come up to that folder and paste it in. So I have all those functions available to me. And then inside this module folder, I'm going to create a new file called module 5 assign.py. So first things first, we need to do some imports here. So the first import is I want to, from my helper file, the one that we've been kind of working on all along here, and I'll show you that here in a second for those of you watching the video fresh, we're going to import everything. Okay. This is what the helper file looks like. So we're importing regex. We have these get int in range. And then we also have get email and get letters, right? And hopefully you guys pause your screen, whatever. That file is in the same folder as this one that I'm currently building. We're also going to import the regex library. So we'll import RE. So that's at our disposal. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pre-create a dictionary of job roles and their descriptions. And I'm noticing that I don't have word wrap turned on here, so I'm going to turn on word wrap. So we have basically key value pairs in the dictionary. Notice the curly brackets to open and close. The job roles, account manager, and then the definition of it. And then project manager, senior developer, junior developer, all pre-created. From there, I'm going to define a class structure of employee, and we'll start first with just some simple properties or data fields, if you will. First name, last name, username, and email, and the job type. We'll also add a string function to this, which will be used basically to just output everything back to the screen. Right? You can format this any way you will. Obviously I'm doing a little bit of new lines and tabbing in because I think it looks nicer that way. And then one more function that we're going to add, which is the get job description. And that's where basically we're checking to see, if a job title is present, then we can pull back the description. If not, we can't, right? So like if you put in a job title that doesn't exist, you won't get a reply. It'll say job title not found. So that's the class definition. The next maneuver is to create a list of employee objects. So we're defining a few here in advance. Notice names, usernames, email addresses, and job titles. Sorry, I was waffling on that a little bit. Then I'm going to jump down and create the menu at the bottom here. So as we've been kind of doing on many of these exercises, this is kind of our user interface, basically. A while loop that's forced to run to true, puts everything up on the screen, prompts the users for a choice that gets validated in our helper file. Then based on that choice, we send them to one of these functions, right? And I'm going to add all those functions here one at a time. So first, let's start with listing the employees. So that function looks like this. So we'll just new line, little title. We're sending a counter variable here. And then for each employee and employees, we're going to basically put that out on the screen like so. And then I want you to notice here that we have the I, so it's going to list a number following it. So it's employee 1, employee 2, etc. Next, we're going to add this function, and this one I'm going to build up a little bit more incrementally, where we're going to add an employee. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user for the first name and last name. We have an external function in the helper file, which makes sure that the input is valid. So we don't want them putting in numbers. We don't want it blank. It's got to be at least one letter for each upper lower cases. Okay, basically. That's all checked, by the way, with regex. So if you want to look at that really quick, here it is, right? It takes the prompt we define, checks against that regex formula, returns a true or false. If true, it returns the input. If false, it loops. Pretty simple. All right. From there, we're going to run a loop inside here. So a loop that's basically forced to run. I'm just going to flip it to true. And then we're going to have them input a username, right? But we want to check via a regular expression if the username follows the format that we've defined. So we're going to store like the true false in the is match variable. But we're going to run this regular expression, which basically is 6 lowercase letters and then 4 numbers, right? And it has to be 6 letters, it has to be 4 numbers, and they have to be lowercase letters, right? So that forces it to that. If it matches, then we'll jump out of the loop. If it doesn't, we'll loop and then prompt them to do it again, basically. Say, hey, you screwed up, fix it. Then we will prompt them to do a valid email address. Now we have, once again, this external function that we wrote in our helper file. There it is. Right. And we turn on the word wrap here just in case you guys are trying to copy the code. But here is this. It does basically the same thing. Whatever prompt we send to it, prompting for a valid email, goes through this regular expression, right? Comes back with a true or false. If it's good, returns the email address. If it's not a valid email address, it loops until it becomes a valid email address. Back to the program file. Now we're going to run another while loop. This one is going to allow them to enter a job title. So we'll start once again by forcing it to true. Then we're going to prompt, say, input a job title. We don't have a validation, external validation for that, but you could create one if you wanted. And then if it happens that the job title is already in the list, right? So they like come up with senior developer, for example, then it will pop them out. Otherwise, and I think I'm saying this backwards, um, actually, it'll move them forward, is really what it's going to do. Otherwise, it's going to have them choose one from what we already have. Either way, what's going to happen next is we are going to take whatever we've captured here in this function and then build a new employee object with it and add it to that list of employees. The next function that we have to build is remove employee. I'm just going to drop this one in all at once, by the way. And we're doing this in hurry up fashion. I'm trying to beat the students back out of their breakout rooms, basically, if you guys are wondering. So to remove an employee, we're going to list them. So you got to see what you're going to remove before you list it. And then we'll say, which employee do you want to remove? And we'll do that based on index number. Notice the -1 at the end to do the correction because the computer's still counting at 0, so it'll be off by 1. And then we'll take that employee at that index value and pop them or remove them from the list, and then we'll relist them to make sure it's gone. The last function that we have to do is to list the jobs. And then we're just going to do that with a simple loop. So every job in the title role will loop through and we'll output it and make it look sort of nice. So that's all of the code. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hit save on this. I'm going to go ahead and show you all the code from top to bottom incrementally. So the imports, the dictionary of job titles and descriptions, followed by the class of employee, definition, properties, a couple of methods, the instantiation of 3 employee objects in a list. From there, we have the list employees function, which just lists them back up on the screen, including employee number. And then we have the add employee function, which allows you to add, does validation, etc., builds a new object and appends it to the employee object list. We have code now for removing an employee based on the index value that you select from a list. Define, also a function for listing all the jobs, just outputs in via loop. And then, of course, the menu at the bottom that drives the whole thing. All right, so that gives you all the code. So like if you need to like pause and screenshot, I get it. But that solution will end here. Now I'm going to be walking through the same exact thing with my students here in just a moment. So this video ends here. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, and that way you'll get notified of new videos as they come out.